we'll call the meeting to order. Limestone County Board of Education meeting is called to order. Let the record show all board members are present except for Mr. Hilliard. We're going to have a prayer by Mr. Young and a pledge by Mr. Shoulders. Mr. Young?
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for such a glorious day we had today. We pray that you be with us through the board meeting as we conduct the business of our schools. Pray that you be with our staff and our students as we carry on with the obstacles in front of us on a day-to-day basis. And we pray for our sports teams that are beginning their seasons and hope they have a good season. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda. Do I have any additions or deletions to the agenda? I hear none. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from item A2.
A2. Mr. Young, do you need to abstain as well?
Yes, from
Same.
6A1.
6A1. Make sure you have that noted. All right. Any other, so I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll motion.
All right, I have a motion, Mr. Winter. Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Shoulders, second. All those in favor? All right. Motion carries. Mr. Superintendent, you have a report?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I did want to provide some information to you. So you did receive a folder that has some documentation in there if you want to take a look at that. The first one is just enrollment comparison. Just thought it would be a good idea to look at where our schools are currently and then compare our enrollment with last year. I won't read through each school number, but you can see, of course, for example, Ardmore High School last year 991, this year 1,002 students, and you can see that across the board. I will note the increase there in the middle, or almost in the middle, Limestone County Virtual School Center. You can see they were at 1,743 last year. They're up to 3,761 students this year, so that's quite an increase there. On the second page of that document, the total number of students, if you take out the connections, Alabama connections, it is 8,404 students that we currently have attending Limestone County schools, both virtual and traditional. And that's minus 217 from the year before. If you look at the next page, the 2019 total enrollment, you can see we were up to 8,621 students there when you take out the Alabama connections as well. So down a little bit overall, but still holding our own. The next sheet, you can see virtual students. The number currently is 2,391 virtual students. And then the number of students in the traditional setting attending live face-to-face instruction, 6,013 students. So that's where we are. In the 2019, we tried to compare today to a year ago to get somewhat of an accurate number of where we are today compared to 1 year ago in 2019. So that's where we are as far as enrollment numbers.
Do we have any idea why we're losing? Because with the growth going on the east side of the county.
Well, I know there's lots of reasons. Sometimes I know a lot of folks signed up for various virtual programs, and they had some different options there. So I think that probably accounts for some of the loss. And then, of course, sometimes I know we talked about Elkmont High, I think, had a larger senior class last year, for example. So I think you were about 20 less students.
We had like 103 seniors last year, and this year they have 83. So it just kind of fluctuates in your smaller schools.
So those are some of the reasons, and we'll keep looking at that. I do agree with the county growing like it is and continuing to grow. Those numbers should go up. But there are a lot of different parties vying for our students as well.
Know, that kind of coincides with what we were told back a few months ago,
Yeah.
that we probably wouldn't see much growth, where with all this development coming in, I thought we would see an explosion.
And it may be, some time needs to pass before we actually see some of that growth as well. The next sheet that I have for you is just the numbers throughout the district as far as COVID. And I will say we got some good news from the Alabama Department of Public Health yesterday with not having to quarantine as many students in the district. And so, if they have what's considered minor symptoms, even though it might be 2 or 3 symptoms, they have to quarantine the student that has those minor symptoms, but everyone around them does not have to quarantine. And so I think we had a multitude of students coming back today in the district based on the new guidelines. But I do think the news overall is positive with what we're looking at. And I know we had to close, Elkmont this week and last week, but I'll say that the trend is all those folks are coming off of quarantine, and by next Monday, barring something unforeseen, they should be able to open back up with majority of their staff back in place and majority of the students back in place as well, even the students who tested positive. But we'll just cover this chart briefly. There's 239 students as of today who were quarantined. There were 15 students district-wide who were positive and out, and then there were 40 students who had symptoms who were out as well in the whole district. And so, when you're talking about the number of students, we have 6,000. That's not too many overall that are being impacted. If you look at staff, you can see that we have 18 that are home with symptoms or quarantined, and 11 that are positive. We're getting a lot of those folks back, and a lot were exposed outside of the school system, and so a lot of those staff members have done their 14 days or 10 days, depending, quarantine, and so now they're coming back to work. So overall, I think, and you can see some schools have had very little impact overall, where others have been impacted more. But I think overall, this is good news. We were up to over 300 and something quarantined at one time, so we're seeing a decrease there.
But the quarantine number is a little misleading, and the news media loves to jump on that and make that the story. But we're quarantining students not because they're positive or because they've got multiple symptoms of COVID. We're being extra cautious
Because
so
they're
we're putting people in
they're
quarantine
close.
that wouldn't necessarily by CDC guideline have to be put in quarantine because of their symptoms. But we're going abundance of caution.
They're in that close contact range and with that 6 feet, 15-minute rule. And I'll say that because of they have to have, a major symptom now like a sudden cough, dry cough, or loss of smell or taste, that's the only reason, or them being positive is why you would quarantine kids now. So I think those numbers will look better moving forward, barring something unforeseen. So good news overall on the COVID numbers, I believe.
Do we have any way of tracking the students who may have tested positive that aren't in school right now at Elkmont?
Well, they are looking, because those numbers, if you look at Elkmont High School, you can see those numbers are much lower. That positive number of 4 there, it was 17 a few days ago, but those students are gradually coming off of quarantine. And so we're tracking it that way, looking at the amount of time they're out of school. Now, if there have been some new cases that have not been reported, we wouldn't know about that.
That's what I'm saying. So there's no way we're contacting kids that are at home. If they don't let us know, we don't know, right?
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Ms. Hubbard, you have a financial report for us? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Any questions for Ms. Hubbard? Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, we have a consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll offer.
I have a motion by Mr. Chris. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Have a second by Mr. Young. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, item 7 is discussion approval of personnel action. Do I have a motion to approve item 7?
I'll offer the motion.
I have a motion, Mr. Glaze. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mr. Winter. Do I have any questions or discussion regarding the personnel action? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item 8 is discussion and approval of Blue Springs Elementary's lease with Bernie Office Solutions for 2 new copiers at the local school expense, and it's no cost to this board. Do I have a motion to approve item 8?
I'll offer motion.
Mr. Shoulders offers a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Glaze offers a second. Do I have any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 9 is discussion and approval of the Limestone County Board of Education Memorandum of Understanding with the University of Alabama in Huntsville for field experiences for UAH teacher candidates. Do I have a motion to approve item 9?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Winter makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Young. Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 10 is discussion and approval of purchase of Imagine Language and Literacy Program for the following schools: Elkmont, Tanner, Sugar Creek, and Piney Chapel Elementary at a cost of $12,000 per site. Total cost is $48,000. Funding source is the State English Second Language Fund and the Title III funds. There's no cost to this board. Do I have a motion to approve item 10?
Offer motion.
Mr. Shoulders offers a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Chris offers a second. Do I have any comments or questions? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries. Item 11 is the discussion approval of the June 2020 bank reconciliation and financials. Do I have a motion to approve item 11?
I'll motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Winter. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Shoulders. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. Item 12 is discussion and approval of software and services agreement with Harris School Solutions for online payment system at a cost of $30,430 for the first year of implementation and usage fees. This is paid for through the CARES Act, and there's an initial, after the initial setup, there will be a cost of about $1,000.95 per site. So do I have a motion to approve item 12?
I'll offer the motion.
Mr. Blaze offers a motion, and I'll second the motion. Do I have any comments or discussion?
Is this the thing that you and I talked about with the band? They can go online and pay? Good deal.
And-
Each school will be able to set up their on their website, but exactly the way they want it and the exact fees they will collect.
So each organization, band, softball, they can all,
Go through the principal, and everybody decides how they're gonna set their website up to collect their fees. And then those fees go into their account. Now, there's a fee for the parent, like $3.95. But if you're like me, I don't mind paying a fee when I can just go click. And I've used this system for my son, and it's easy to use.
and this gets everybody, all the organizations where all the money is funneling through the schools like it's supposed to. Okay.
Unless it's an outside organization, unless it's one that's not kept on the school board.
And give me an example of that.
We've got some PTOs out there that aren't on the school board.
Is every school a site?
Every school's a site, and then the central office will be a site, because we collect district choice money every year. So we want to make that easier for parents, so they don't have to come to the central office.
Not just every sport, but every school is a site.
Every school is a site, so they'll be able to collect, one school will be able to go collect their football, their volleyball, softball, basketball teams. They can collect those through this online system. And it coincides and it marries with our Harris Solutions, that's why we're using that one. And then it'll go right into the software, so it makes it easy record keeping for the
But this is also will be used at the central office, right, for people who are paying out of school, out of district fee, any fee that's collected.
Like that, anything that's collected in central office will go through this now.
And, but it does not include athletics, so we're not selling football tickets. You and I talked about that. Mr. Bates, we're not doing that, right?
We're not, no, it would have to be.
They didn't offer that.
They're not ready for that.
Okay. Mr. Bates,
It's under, East Limestone and Ardmore are piloting the Go Fan system for athletic tickets.
okay.
Just run a test run, see how it goes. And so far, it's running Friday night. Yeah, we'll know Friday night because that month Ardmore plays, so we'll know how it really goes.
I think, and just correct me if I'm wrong, when you presented about a paperless or touchless system, that we were not mandated to do that, correct? It's,
We were not mandated, we were just highly recommended that we need to move towards that one.
okay. And so we're letting the schools that want to do it, and the ones that don't will take money just like normal.
Well, we had talked to Ms. Hubbard, and we had talked about purchasing the system, because the system's about $1,500 to get the credit card reader, the scanner, and everything like that. So we talked about letting Ms. Hubbard, using our CARES money, purchase the whole system for all 6 high schools. But when Dr. Sherhouse and I, the more we talked about it, the more we were concerned that it may not be the right fit for everybody. So we decided to go ahead and let Ardmore and East pilot it,
Okay.
and then the other schools other 4 will stay with just tickets and cash like normal.
Okay. Okay.
And we kept the admission fee the same, because we felt like that was important. We didn't want that to be higher at those 2 schools than the other schools, so.
Oh, yeah, that did.
Ardmore and East actually lose $1 for every ticket. They have agreed to do that. Both principals and coaches agreed. So the ticket price for normal is $7. But, so they bought the system and it's only $1 fee. So they kept the ticket price at $7. So where Elmont and Clements and West and Tanner all get $7 for everybody that walks through their gate, Ardmore and East are only getting 6 if they're used to going.
Well, that's the way it should. Those bigger schools can handle that. Us small schools, we can't absorb that kind of loss. So
They've been nice enough to do that.
we appreciate you. All right, good. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, item 13 is discussion and approval of a service agreement for 100 MiFi hotspots from Verizon Wireless at a monthly cost of $23 per hotspot for 6 non-consecutive months. Hotspots are used by students in quarantine and the event of a complete system shutdown. The CARES Act is the funding source for this. Do I have a motion to approve item 13?
I'll offer a motion.
Mr. Shoulders offers a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Glaze offers a second. Are there any questions or comments regarding item 13? Okay, hear none. All those in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, item 14 is discussion approval of the budget amendment 1 for FY20. Do I have a motion to
I'll
approve?
offer a motion.
Mr. Chris offers a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Mr. Shoulders offers a second. Do I have any questions or comments?
You gonna explain it a little bit, or we just gonna start asking questions?
I can do these. This is our one budget amendment. We have to go back and, I go in there, and once our financial statements have been approved, and the State Department allows us, I can go in there, and our beginning fund balance becomes our ending balance that was on our FY19 financial statements. So we do that. We have to go back in there, and we have to allocate all the carryover money that we've had from the prior year. So we've done that. And any additional state revenue that we receive, if we stay during the year, we have to go through and we have to budget that. Like, they wait until later in the year to give us our current units money. And we got some bullying prevention money. And our ETF Advanced in Technology Fund money for 2021. We go ahead and budget the revenue for that, even though we won't spend that money until 2021. They give it to us in September of 2020. So I have to put that money in there. I did this year go ahead and I looked at our revenues, and we budgeted a little bit low on our local revenues, so I went ahead and I increased that like 2.1 million, so it would be in line
Did we do a budget amendment last year?
Yes,
We
we did.
did, and we didn't change the ending fund balance for FY 2019.
No, we didn't change it last year.
Okay, so that's the difference. That's why we have this big number
That's why
difference.
we have this big number difference this year, I had permission to go ahead and change it this year, because I wanted it to more closely line up with where we actually were.
When you say you had permission, who do you have to get permission
Well,
from?
not permission, when they go and they approve your financial statements, and they approve this and approve that, sometimes they'll tell you they want you to change the balance, and sometimes they don't, they'll say just leave it. And so my team accountant this year, when I had talked to her, she let me go ahead and I got to go ahead and increase the balance to match the last year's ending balance on the financial statements.
Okay.
So it more closely lines up, because we have had some growth when we made the cuts, and we've had the extra revenue coming in. So
Yeah.
you need to see that more closely reflected in your budget. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
So we're like 15 months out from being below 1 month fund balance. Is that somewhere close to right?
Yeah, we've got 2.6 months.
No, I mean, 15
but when
months
did
ago,
we-
we were below 1
We were
month's
below
fund
1
balance.
month, so we came on that.
What would you attribute the difference to be? We're now at 2.5.
I attribute the difference to be, one, we made those big cuts, that first year I was here, we made those big cuts that were very painful.
I remember. Yes, ma'am.
That I hadn't been here long, and I think after that one night, we had it up there in our boardroom, and
It was April 23rd, if you're curious.
Yeah, I was in tears, I think, that night when I left, but, so we made those cuts like that night, and we implemented in that budget period. And then we had Toyota Mazda come in, and when they came in, they brought all their subsidiaries with them. So we've all relished in the growth in the sales tax revenue that we've got. I was actually talking to Serena, my counterpart, the other day, and, we saw some great growth in sales tax revenue, and it's been good to us.
So-
When we get here, and we're in this unknown time, and like I explained to you earlier, since we got through our audit, they did send me one thing, they're gonna change, a new note they're adding to everybody's financial statements. When you see the notes with those, and it talks about the uncertainty and the hard time it's gonna be with the Board of Education to actually do a budget for 2021, to know where it's going and to know where it is. So it's almost telling everybody to show a little grace to your Board of Education, because these are hard times for them to try to budget. I can tell you that I look at the sales tax, and it's still coming in. I think I told you earlier, like in June, our 1952 penny, which is our sales tax, our lawsuit sales tax penny, we got $876,000 off that penny in the month of June, but we've already hit the floor. So I have to move that money over and take it out of our revenue and show it as a payable, because that money will have to be split between the lawsuit. So, but our constitutional penny is still coming in a little over $1 million a month. So we're just gonna knock on wood and hope that money keeps coming in. And ad valorem has been up a little bit from what it was the year before. So all those numbers are being good to us right now.
So when we do our budget, they tell us how much we're going to get in our foundation money, right?
We have a report from Foundation, so they tell us, and so far they haven't made any cuts, and it's a little bit more than it was last year.
How did we end up getting more in 20 than we budgeted? Like, we got 72 instead of 69 in state revenue. Isn't that that's the money they tell us we're getting, right?
Right, and then
How
later
much?
in the year, they take about the current units money. That money doesn't come
So
out
that's
on
what
that
adds to that
Foundation report,
difference.
And that
Okay.
adds to that number. And
But-
then you have, like, we got a bullying prevention grant from the state, and that was $32,000, and that adds to the state revenue number. We got a career tech initiative that was $17,000, and that adds to it. So they give you the beginning foundation report, and then during the year, it adds more to it. We may write grants that we get money from, or then it's money like the current units that they give out later in the year. So it increases that number.
And CARES money is not in this at all.
CARES money is not in this at all. They told
Okay.
me not to budget CARES money right now, so I didn't. So that was for new 2021.
That'll be significant.
That's significant money. I think they're worried about, they've got that money in now, that everybody can get it spent. They're not worried about as much spending in the budget right now. But it'll have to go in the budget. I'm like, you want it in the budget, though. When you get the budget, it'll be, where's it at, where's it at? But we'll have it in there, so. I think they're probably as stressed about all the money that's coming in and trying to get it out as we are about trying to get everything ordered and making sure we get it paid.
Where are we on spending the CARES money, do you think?
Where are we spending the CARES money?
Just ballpark a figure, a percentage of, because they've already given it to us, right? Or are they giving it to us in 12s?
You have to order that money, just like you order federal money.
Okay.
You have to order that money.
But
So-
not in 12s though, right?
Not in 12.
No, it's just a reimbursement.
Alice's office, because it's coming as federal money, all purchase orders, CARES money has to go through her office. It's
Okay.
like all the title,
Yeah.
title does. And, so we track it all and make sure it's allowable expenses. And I don't know how much.
About 600,000 in devices. Schools have started spending their portion, or probably about 75,000 just in hand sanitizer, masks, thermometers. Not including, there's several things that were bought even before my office took over that
Because you
we're
can go
trying to
back-
work on next
right.
week to get them divided
Yeah.
out.
You can go back to
Of course,
2015.
the personnel expenses, will be coming all the way through, and a lot of that money has to be spent by December. And of course, the original CARES money you have until 2022 to spend that money. But we've got to spend that other money by December, and that included the nurses portion, which we approved some extra nurses, and then that also the technology money as well. We had to spend that money by December, so we've got to move on that.
We are grateful and thankful.
But personnel's going to take a lot of that over time too. The extra subs and so forth that we approved, and
Okay.
Good.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. If I remember right, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor? All right. Motion carries. All right. Item 15 is discussion, no approval, just discussion of substitute pay. So do I have a motion to approve discussion of substitute pay?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Mr. Glaze makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Young has a second. There is an attachment. She gave it to us as well as it's attached. And this is basically a little chart that outlines kind of where we are and a couple of different scenarios depending on what we decide. And the second page is a chart that outlines Limestone County's current rate, Athens City, Madison County, Morgan County. I don't know who asked for it. Y'all know how I am. I want to see what other districts are doing to see where we fit. So they've laid it out there for us so we can see how our subpay correlates with our surrounding districts. And so we're discussing this tonight, and if we can come to some sort of, we're not voting on it, but if we can give the superintendent, Ms. Hubbard, some direction, then I think there'll be an item for us to vote on the September 10th. It's a Thursday night board meeting, the second Thursday, so it'll be pretty quick coming up.
we have to approve the salary schedules. That's one thing that's coming up that we have to approve, and then of course your new budget in October. So those are two things that would fit nicely into this.
Mr. Chair, I guess I'll start the discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
I contacted central office about this because there was some concerns from one employee that called me. And I tend to agree with the call I got. We were paying this particular sub, I think Mr. Tribble, it wound up being like $7 and 40-something cents an hour. And she had committed, and she said that she was going to work for that, but she was concerned about, with all the extra duties that she was being asked to do, if we could look at possibly raising that. And I personally feel that, you can go to work at McDonald's for $10 an hour in most places. So I asked Mr. Tribble and the central office staff to look at this, and he's offered these scenarios. I think anybody that works with our kids on a sub basis or whatever, $10 an hour at the time they provide their transportation and get to work, they've got to eat. I think anybody that's worth anything is worth $10 an hour. I talked to Mr. Tribble today, and I think scenario B kind of lines up with that $10 an hour thing. We've got a lot of dedicated subs that they'll come in on somebody calls at 7 o'clock and say, hey, I need you here at 7:20. We've got some that they'll get there to might not be there at 7:20, but they'll get there as soon as they possibly can, and I think we ought to take care of those and take care of us. We do a very good job, looks like, that on the chart. We do a very good job with our contract teachers, compared to city schools. We pay ours $27 an hour, and they pay theirs.
And
That's what it is.
And I would wonder, on our, I guess my opinion is that if you're a non-certified sub, it doesn't really matter if you're secretary or a janitor. We should just have one fee, one pay rate, and be done with it. And I don't know that I value one of those more than the other, and so just, if they're coming in to sub, and it's probably spur of the moment, and and they're going to take care of our kids, whether they're cleaning the floor or whether they're sitting in a classroom trying to do a lesson. And so I would, whatever we agree on, whether it's 60 or 65, I would like it to be consistent. I think that
All the way across the board.
Yeah, plus it's bound to make somebody's paperwork or computing a little easier. I don't know. It's probably done by computer, but anyway, and what they did on this chart, as you can see, they took 2 months. They took a low month and a high month of substitute pay from last year, and they got us an average. So that kind of gives you an idea of what it'll cost us trying to come up with an average. It was hard. Miss Hubbard struggled a little bit to try to. The system didn't always differentiate between a certified teacher and non-certified, so she had to put a little work into it, and Bill and different ones to try to get us the good information. But I think they've done a good job to allow us to have something to think about and talk about. Me, I don't want to be the highest paid folks in the region, but I do think we probably need to move it up, and B moves it. There needs to be a differentiation between certified and uncertified. If you've got a person with a teaching certification or a PhD or a master's or ed or whatever versus, having a high school diploma and you coming in to sub, you shouldn't make the same money. So I do think there needs to be a $10 difference in those two. So.
Well, I had asked Mr. Triple to look at a $5 higher than the highest one, and he and I talked today, and he feels like that if we went with a $65, if we can justify that, then next year or a little later on, if we see a need, that we could go to $70 an hour. But if we could, I'm personally satisfied with the $65 an hour. I think that's a fair.
You're talking about 65 for the uncertified,
Uncertified.
which bumps the other one if we're going to stay $10 differentiation too. And Ms. Hubbard, if I'm looking at the chart right, that's about $172,000 total expenditure greater than what we're expending now. So less than $200,000 if we gave the subs a raise and we didn't use more subs than normal. If it's
And I went on the high side because that's how I like to estimate.
Right.
I went back and looked at FY 19, 18, and 17.
Okay.
And we spent little plus or minus $800,000 total for subs, but the general fund was only out around 20 to 25,000.
Okay.
So what happens is the subs follow the teacher. So if the teacher is a title teacher, the
And-
title pays for that.
I
If
got
it's a
you.
CNC
Okay.
worker, CNC funds pay for that. If it's a special ed teacher, then it follows special ed. So the sub follows the teacher in the funding source.
Okay.
So what we're saying is it may not be 172. It may
Oh,
be,
no.
Yeah.
These are all averages. I understand
Yeah.
that. We're just trying to figure out the worst case scenario.
Still
So
be
I get it.
less
So
because
I took a high month, when I took September of 19 and we had almost 2,500 subs that month, that's a high number of subs. And then I took February and that was 1,100. So I said, okay, I'm gonna average those two and multiply them times 9 and see where we're at. And that's 1.1 million. Well, if I go back and look at what we've actually paid, we pay a little over 800,000 a year for subs.
I've asked a lot of people a lot of questions, and I don't think I ask anybody this, and so I apologize for asking it publicly. You don't have to give me the answer if you don't know, but when's the last time we gave our subs a pay raise? When have we adjusted this salary? I don't.
We haven't adjusted this since I've been here.
Okay, I don't remember doing it either, and I've been on the board for nearly 10 years, so I don't know. And the reason I bring that up, we've got some money, so we tag on sub pay increase to 2.5 months of a reserve, and everybody thinks, well, hot dang, we all need a raise. Everybody's working hard, everybody's appreciated, but I think we made a bus driver salary increase last year, maybe a year before, because we were struggling, And I think that's the reason this has been brought to us, is that we're struggling to find subs. We need more subs now than ever. So it's not that we value one group more than the other, and we don't, we think everybody deserves more money. Everybody's working hard. But obviously, we're not just going to go in and give everybody raises. But I think when a problem is brought to us, if the solution is a little bit of a pay raise and get it equal, and we can see on this chart that we're not equal with our surrounding counties. So that's why I would support, adjusting the salary moving forward, and then we can see. So I assume there'll be other discussions. If you've got questions as you look at the chart, you can talk to Ms. Hubbard, Mr. Tribble, or Dr. Strauss, and we'll, kind of give them an idea of what they want to bring to us in the first meeting in September, I think, or the second meeting in September. Either way, we've got 2 meetings. They're both budget meetings in September that we have to do. So
You'd mentioned about the subs, like making them one fee. I mean, when I'm looking at this list, you're talking about each sub listed on this list here. Is that right, what you're talking about?
is that what you're asking me?
Anybody that wants to answer.
Yeah,
Okay.
where we see
So,
Everybody below the top column.
the
What
lunchroom, the secretary.
what she had just said, though, is like the lunchroom record sub would come out of the C&P funding. I'm not
Yes.
against that, but we need to make sure but what does it do to them if we increase that by $10?
I see what you're
Does
saying.
it break their budget, I guess is what I'm getting at.
It won't break
Okay.
it, but we watch that, we have a pass-through where we have to watch C&P, and we have to see where they are, and they do a calculation each year, and then I see that when we do the budget, and we have to pass through enough money to C&P to sustain them if they need it.
Okay.
They have to keep a 1-month balance, just like we keep a 1-month general fund balance.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not affecting
That's a good
their
point.
budget.
And I spoke to Ms. Rogers about it, and she was in support of this to try to, if they struggle with trying to get. help.
Exactly, right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the
But
thing.
this $172,000 increase that we've discussed, scenario B, that's not up in everybody's pay. That was only up in the non-certified teacher sub and certified teacher sub, right?
That's right.
And that's a contract.
No, that's not right.
That's not right.
That's up in everybody on this chart, on this page right here.
Well, those people, these subs that I'm looking at on here, this 2,466 subs include these other categories or just teachers?
Let's make sure with Ms. Hubbard on that one.
Okay, I'm sorry, she had got a text from, the acting superintendent for Athens City, and she was saying that they pay their contract teachers $30 an hour?
I don't know, that's what I got off their website, which
Okay.
may not have been updated
And
right.
then they pay their contract non-certified 17, which this doesn't affect our
Yeah,
subs
this is not
anyway.
sub anyway, but.
This isn't subs anyway, this would just
Right.
That's the
looking to
last
see if
two
we.
columns.
Yeah, it's the last two to see if we line up with those. And so they're at 30, we're at 27, they're at 17, we're at 12. So that's just those last two lines. When y'all see the contracts come through for a certain amount, not to exceed.
Right.
Yeah,
we
okay.
have those different ones.
I didn't.
This was back from July.
I figured something was wrong. There ain't no way a contract teacher that's certified is going to take $11 an hour.
Yeah.
I didn't think anyway. So I figured something was wrong
Ms.
with it.
Hubbard,
But it didn't affect what we're doing. We're not talking about contract pay,
We're
so.
not talking about that anyway, unless they have it. I'm sure they have
Yeah,
it.
Mr. Christ, ask your question to Ms. Hubbard.
Okay, so scenario B says $172,575 increase in the budget, or at least that's the way I look at it.
That's the estimated average total cost, so
But
it would go up $172,000 from what we pay right now. So if we're estimating $1 million now, then it would go up to $1.1 million, which would be $172,000.
Okay, so does that include only up in the pay for non-certified teacher subs and certified teacher subs, or is that increasing the pay for this entire list of people?
It's increasing it for the entire list of people, because when you go into
What Earl
ASOP,
said.
and see this big thing, this comes out of ASOP, this is all the subs that we have per month,
Not just teacher subs, but.
not just teacher subs.
So the 2466, which is the high number in September, that includes every sub.
Everybody, that's
That was
just-
non-certified. That's the, yeah, okay.
That's CMP workers,
That-
that's teachers.
that's my
everybody.
So that gets us, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of these, like counselor clerk sub, technical assistant sub, honestly, we never even use those.
I was gonna say we're getting subs for that.
Yeah, so I mean, because they just don't technically need subs. So, but they're listed on our salary
All
schedule.
right. Well, I think that's reasonable, so, all right. I guess y'all need to know if y'all got enough information from us to see what direction we want to go, so y'all can bring a motion to the agenda next or next couple of meetings, whenever it is.
So we're gonna have this go into effect October 1. If it's going into effect October 1, then we just need to put it on the salary schedule when we bring the salary schedule to get it.
I would like to see it go into effect immediately myself, because, we're struggling to get subs. It was my understanding that's part of the reason we shut down Elkmont, because we didn't have people in the classroom for the students. So personally, I'd like to see.
Well, we had 10 teachers out, so there were 2 that
we couldn't find a sub for in that situation. So,
but that was
into making a decision.
that was have 10. You certainly look at that, yeah. If you don't have enough folks to fill the classrooms.
After the discussion, Mr. Superintendent, are you in position to give us a motion, a recommendation, if we give you some numbers, increasing from 55 to 65, I believe it is? What are we paying them now, 55?
55, yes, sir.
Yeah, and we move them up to 65? Was that what we're talking about?
And then are you talking about moving certified?
And moving certified the same, yeah.
Yeah.
70 to 75.
Same amount.
Well, I know for the board to have a chance to digest this a little bit, my plan was to make the recommendation, at the next board meeting, or we could make it part of the whole budget process. But if Mr. Glaze feels like we need to move quicker, I don't know if we need to move quicker than, a couple weeks, but.
Board, do you need to digest any further?
I do.
I do.
I don't think that this isn't how we do business. We don't
Okay.
come in here and make a motion on the night of a meeting and then pass it, so I don't think we should say that tonight.
Okay.
I think the question is then whether it takes effect October 1 or whether it takes effect immediately upon the next approved, or the next board meeting when it's approved. So y'all can,
I would say it would be immediately, because these people are working now.
So are we gonna retro it back to September 1, so it covers the whole month of September? Or if we come in here on the 10th, are you gonna make it?
I guess whatever's best for payroll. What works better for you?
If the board's comfortable with, if they approve the recommendation on our next board meeting, we can make it retroactive, and that way the whole month is covered. Would probably
Is that easier on
make the
payroll?
most
I'm sure it
sense.
is,
It's
isn't it?
much easier on my office, they have to hand you all those
Yeah,
timesheets.
that was,
Okay.
It would make
Yeah,
it.
I'm comfortable with that. We're only talking 10 days, so it ain't like it's gonna be a lot of money, I would think. So, all right.
And there's a lot of staff. There's a lot of staff development in these days, which we're not using quite as much now with
Okay.
everything going on. So it should help the cost initially, at least.
2020, we've spent about 619,000 on subs for 2020.
But you didn't have the spring.
And that ends next month, right? September 30th. Yeah, okay, so we got a month left. We're gonna already spend a couple $100,000 less than we did all of last year, so we.
Spring,
Yeah.
we're out of
Okay,
school
good.
for 2 months.
Okay.
So.
All right, any other I think they've got direction. Y'all got any other questions or comments?
I just want to say, I appreciate y'all put this together quick to get this to the board. And I appreciate y'all all working on this, because I think to me, it's very important that we do what we can to help get subs and get subs paid at a decent rate.
And we're comparable to our surrounding counties, so that we don't want to necessarily be the the highest paid, but we don't want to be the lowest, so we're going to be all right. All right, good. All right, so there's nothing to vote on, because that was discussion only, and there's no more items on the agenda, so this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.